All right, for Lunch and Learn today, we have a pretty exciting program. Matt Starrett is the founder and CEO of TrueVM or True Venture Marketing. Matt and I have known each other for a couple years now. Yeah. We'd have to scratch our heads and try to figure out exactly how much. But through another startup and then this startup, Matt's become an expert on all things sort of digital marketing. So he's built a great agency, and we are thrilled to have him here talking about Facebook, Pixel, and a bunch of all things Facebook have to say.
Yeah, we're trying to take a deep dive into Pixel, how to measure your marketing and make the most out of.
So come on over, Matt. So we're in the camera.
Oh, I need to be over here.
So the camera goes from the middle of the monitor to the end of the screen. Awesome. And I guess the closer we get up here, the better the camera.
Better. Okay.
The better everybody.
I'll probably do a terrible job at staying in one place. So wish me luck. And Jeff, just yell at me if I'm.
I'll yell at you, or you may see Maggie in the back.
I probably will. So yeah, do that. Do the wave in the back, so we don't distract anyone.
So Matt, thanks for coming out. Thanks for all you're gonna tell us, and I really appreciate your coming out with us. So everybody, please give a warm welcome.
Yeah, as Jeff mentioned, we go back probably 2 or 3 years. A bit about myself. 4 years ago, I helped start my first company. It was an e-commerce company, and I was in charge of marketing. At the time, I knew nothing about marketing, so I had to learn quick. I think that if I would have had resources like this, it would be really helpful. Since starting that company, I've helped started 2 others. My most recent one, the best one, is True Venture Marketing. We're based right upstairs. We focus on A/B testing, analytics, advertising, and what we call conversion rate optimization. So today's topic is on the Facebook Pixel. Let me actually find this little clicker here. I know I've got it. But we're going to be going over the Facebook Pixel, talking about who should be using it, what is it for, what does it do, and how does it work. Let's see if we can get this thing to go. It's not working on me. Now, do you think there's a button here?
Yeah.
There it goes. I think I got the power. Yeah. So you should be using the Facebook Pixel if you're either running Facebook ads right now, or if you plan to run Facebook ads in the future. This could either be a formal advertising on Instagram, Facebook, their audience network. There's a lot you can really do with it. Or you can just boost posts. Whatever you're doing, the Pixel can help you see the impact of what you're doing. So what the heck is it? Facebook Pixel, that name is so ambiguous. I don't think that could have been any worse with coming up with a name there. They call it a pixel because it's actually an image that you load on your website. It's this script. I know it's gibberish. It doesn't mean anything, but it's actually a line of code that you install on your website. And when someone goes to your site, this tag, this code, loads up behind the scenes. You don't see it, but it loads up behind the scenes and tells Facebook that someone is on your site. Someone's on this very page of the site. And there's a little identifier on there that actually sends information back to Facebook, so Facebook knows who's on the site. Now, what does that mean for us? It means that Facebook can track from someone seeing an ad to the pixel loading for that specific person. Now, in a nutshell, that's what it is. Sorry for like the headache already of seeing that bunch of gibberish, but what does that mean for you? Well, here's 5 ways that this little line of code can help you in your business. 1, it can help you track conversions. 2, it helps you map your customer journey. You can actually map out what are the steps someone has to take to make a purchase. And then using these events, you can actually retarget, what we call retarget users who have been to your website. So you can show ads to people who have seen your website. You can also build lookalike audiences, build audiences of people who look similar to those who've been on your site. And lastly, you can actually optimize ads that you're running on Facebook or Instagram or any of these networks. You can optimize them for conversions. So let's go back to number 1, tracking conversions. With Facebook, if you're running ads, what do we want to get when we run ads? Do we want clicks and likes? We want to get sales. Absolutely. Clicks and likes. I was just saying earlier, I think clicks and likes are a little bit overrated. Because do they actually move the needle? Does anyone here get real value out of clicks and likes? Just a little bit, but what we really want to see is how much money we're making, or how many leads we get, or how many people are registering on our site. And what the Facebook does is when you start tracking conversions, such as leads or registrations completed, it gives you that information and how much does it cost to get these conversions. So you can see this is real data from one of our campaigns. We have about 60 leads at about $4 to $5 per lead. It's not bad. Most people would be happy paying $4 to $5 per lead all day. We also have website registrations for people who are signing up for a service. It's cost, yeah, you can see the cost there. Now, is that good? I guess it depends. What are you selling? What do you make from people? But what the real value of having the pixel gives you is the ability just to look at this and draw the conclusions yourself. So what does that mean for us? Well, let's say, does anyone here run an e-commerce company or help out with e-commerce? Okay, so we've got a lot of people in here who are doing this. Well, let's say you are running an e-commerce company. You're selling, say, glasses online. I was talking to someone here earlier who has a course online, and they charge around $60 for their course online. Let's say you're charging $50 for a course or a glasses company, right? And you spend $500 on ads. Well, wouldn't you want to know how many sales you got? Now, what do we think would be a good number of sales to get from spending $500 on ads if we're getting $50 per sale? 10, 20? Do I hear 30?
At least 20.
At least 20. I'm with Jeff. At least 20. It really is kind of a trick question. There's the upside. You want as much upside as possible. You don't 10. What's the point? You're breaking even. You're spending all this time running the ads, and if you can only get 10, then you need to look at your funnel and find a way to optimize. But yeah, 10, 20, 30, 40, doesn't matter. Whatever, however many sales you get, you want to be able to measure. You need to be able to measure it, or else you're just spending money and you don't know what you're getting in return. So I was actually going to pull this up later if we have questions on how to set it up. But if you want to set up a pixel, you're really setting you're doing two things. You're setting an event code for each event on your site. So let's say you have a landing page and then a shopping cart and then someone checks out. So you have this event code, you're telling Facebook, you're triggering an action on the landing page when someone views that page, and then if they add the cart, you can see that. You add an event for that action, and then you add an event for checkout action. And then you're also going to add the base code, which is going to tell Facebook that every page, it's going to tell Facebook what pages you have. Now, we kind of already talked about that, but basically, when we do this, we need to have that conversion goal at the end. So every campaign needs to have a conversion goal, but it's probably likely that we have more steps than just someone clicking on the ad and converting. There's probably a path that someone might have to take to get to that conversion. So we've got here a typical funnel that someone might actually have on their website. So, for example, they might see a Facebook or Instagram ad, go to the landing page, add something productive, and check out and make a purchase. We basically want to be adding pixel events here, 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 and here. And ultimately, we'd also want to tell Facebook that for this event, make a purchase, that is worth money to us. So not only do we have the ability to track each step in this funnel, but we are also able to look at in our dashboard what the value is of each step. Generally, I recommend at least have value associated with this event here and measure all the other ones on the way. And this can help you paint a picture of what your customer journey looks like and what steps people are taking to get to a purchase. And then if there's any weird bottlenecks, so no one's adding something to the cart, maybe there's a problem with your button, or if people are adding something to the cart but people aren't checking out, then you can start to see what the issues are there. And that whole mapping the customer journey is really the second part of tracking conversions. It's something that's really valuable if you're in e-commerce. You want to be able to map this customer journey and tie events to each step in your funnel. At True Venture Marketing, at our company upstairs, our most successful campaign, that data we showed you earlier with leads, registrations, and whatnot, that was actually from a funnel that's this simple. It's just paid ads sending traffic to a website, just one page, where we ask for an email. And here people enter their email, and once they enter their email, they go through a demo and sign up for process. It's pretty simple, right? Just 3 steps. I think like a lot of us with the tools that are out there now, it's not too hard to build a website. I think a lot of us could build something that's relatively simple like this. But what did it do? What's the power there? This simple funnel actually generated over 30,000 leads and 7,000 registrations for the client. Something this simple. Marketing doesn't have to be crazy, intense, connecting all these dots. You can start in a simple way with tools that almost anyone can use nowadays. You can get some real results if you spend the time to learn it and optimize it. Does anyone here have an idea of what their funnel looks like? If you work in e-commerce? No idea. So, do you have a website? Do you have a website? And do you have can I buy from your website? Yeah. I could. If you want, we can pull it up and we can look at it. Do you want to? All right.
There's a brave person.
Okay, you are very brave. I gotta say.
Be kind and gentle.
As kind and gentle as it gets. What website am I
S
using?
and Sam, W-A, P's and Tom, hyphen, P's and Tom, SandSam.com.
Like that?
I can't do that.
No.
Sure.
No, it's not it.
Okay, right. I think this was your Wikipedia.
What's that?
It's swaptees.com. So SWAT-TS.com. Right with the TS.
Yeah, you can see that. That's so great.
There we go. Okay. No, and it's got like a nice open design. Clear call to action here. I like it. Video in the background. I feel like it might be better with audio, but
That's actually that's not where that's supposed to be. So I'm glad you told us that. They just did some updates last week. That's not where that video is supposed to be. So,
okay. Well,
anyway,
you can fight that out with your web dev team. So that's simple. I'm at 1 click so far. So step 1 is I went to swaptees.com. So that's the first step in our funnel. Right, that's our customer journey. Step 1 is let's say I saw an ad with swaptees.com. That's step 1, and you want to have the Facebook pixel on that page. And you have your web development team add this in the head. Sorry if I'm speaking gibberish.
right, I'm just going to absorb.
We can talk later, but they'd add the pixel there, and we'd know, okay, Matt, or it'd be an anonymous user in Reno, just went to your site, and then they click, and we want to add the pixel on this page as well, and say that this is the products page. Because action 1, viewed site. Action 2, visits product page. And action 3, I like this party pack. Action 3, anonymous user in Reno views party packs. Action 4, these are pricey. I don't know if I'm going to check out here, but action 4 goes to product and then checks out. Adds to cart and checks out. You buy 18 patches. Okay.
You have to select it. That's private.
Okay, gotcha. So that's basically homepage, product page, more specific product page, cart or checkout, or add to cart, and then checkout. So it's 6 steps, I would say, which is fairly normal, especially when you go to the homepage first. If you're running ads for this, sorry, I'm not in the camera. I was over there breaking all the rules. But if I was running ads for this, I would want to know what steps someone took to get here, and it can be really helpful to have that. And ultimately, when someone hits this add to cart button, it fire again when they enter their credit card information, we redirect them to another page, so we can measure that. But that would be your funnel. That would be your customer journey, is homepage to all the other pages to checkout. If you're running ads, you can get more specific. You can say, I just want to sell this party pack. You can run that goes straight here. You add to the party pack page, they add to cart and checkout. And that would cut those steps down from 6 to 3. So basically, that's the customer journey. Yes, Maggie?
Okay. So Facebook Pixel is on the homepage.
Yeah, it's on every
Is
page.
it on every page?
It's on every
You have to
page.
configure it separately for every page.
Unfortunately.
So it's not the Pixel, it's like the whole Pixel library.
There's a process to it. You could get started pretty simple because, as I said, they call it the base code, which is the code that's on every single page, and then there's the event code. That's really, it's where you're measuring key events. So, well, you could, and you can do some. There's some shortcuts to it. So I should turn this off. Got like 15 notifications on there. So for example, if you have /party packs, you can tell Facebook that every event where the URL says /party packs is a certain group of events. And so it basically just means that someone went to the next step. So you can set it up rather simply and still cover all your bases. But yeah, you have the base code and the event code. You want events where the key actions are in customer journey. But with a funnel like that, now we would want to, let's just go back here. We know the impact. So that's basically our funnel, right? That's the customer journey. And now why does that matter? Why do you care where people are in the journey? Well, for one, it lets us retarget people who've maybe gone through half of the process but haven't finished checking out. And a big problem that anyone who works in e-commerce will face, and a big problem that will cause plenty of headaches, is that most customer journeys start with a giant pool of people, maybe 1,000 people go to your site, but then as that first shop now button comes, only half of them go for it, only half of them click on the button. And then the third step of the product page, only 25% of the people who click the button will go to the next step. And then it's 10% added to cart and 3% check out. And by then, your 1,000 people is getting pretty small. You're talking about 5 or 6 conversions for 1,000 people. So what do we want to do? We want to find ways that we can say, take Facebook, I want to find everyone who added a product to their cart. I find everyone who went to that page, and I want to run ads to them with the product, for the product that they were looking at. And so that's what we call retargeting. Another really valuable feature of the Facebook Pixel. So who here has heard of retargeting before this? Probably most, 80% of people. Basically, if you haven't heard about it, but I'm sure you've experienced it. If you've ever, yeah, we've all been chased around the website by that weird pair of shoes that you accidentally looked on Amazon. Or yeah, that's retargeting, and it's basically you're just finding people who did a specific action on your website. You could target everyone who went to your website. You can go that broad. You could target everyone who clicked on your ad, engaged with it, liked it, everyone who watched half of your video. Through Facebook audiences and actions like this, we can retarget everyone who did this but didn't do that, or everyone who did this but didn't do that. And so that retargeting feature is one of those other really valuable things we can do with Facebook Pixel. Benefits, well, it's something like 7 times cheaper to acquire a customer who you've retargeted compared to someone who is seeing an ad for the first time. The drawbacks is that you kind of need a bit of a base to start with. Most of us are dealing with fairly early stage websites. Does anyone here have 1,000 people who go to their site every month? That's Sandy. Of course you do. That's awesome. So, but that doesn't mean you can't do retargeting. It does mean that it's going to be tougher, but you could pretty easily run a Facebook ad and boost it, and then in Facebook audiences, actually create an audience for everyone who's engaged with your post, your video. You can find everyone who watched more than 3 seconds of your video and then start retargeting them. And you can start smaller and eventually build up that retargeting audience and get those really high quality audiences without doing a ton of work. Now, the fourth really important feature, the benefit of the Facebook Pixel, is that we can build lookalike audiences. Now, this one's a little more foreign. Who here has heard of lookalike audiences? See, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 people. Okay, so maybe what could you tell me about a lookalike audience? Yeah. Is it extremely difficult? Is it rocket science? It's not rocket science, but it is super foreign to most of us. It can be intimidating. What you're doing is in Facebook audiences, you tell Facebook, I want to create an audience of everyone who, let's go back to this funnel. I want to create an audience of everyone who went to the main product page. And then you build an audience there, and audiences on Facebook. And then you tell Facebook, there's a little option that says create lookalike audience. It's a little checkbox, create lookalike audience. And what Facebook does is it finds the 1% of Americans who most similarly resemble that audience. And what is Facebook's most valuable asset? What do you think? Data. They know way too much about all of us, way too much. Like, it's kind of scary, but with all of Facebook's data, if you give them 1,000 people to look at, they can create this profile of what's the average income, what demographic are they, what location are they in, are they near a big city, are they in rural Nevada. Facebook will look at all interests, all these different data points, and based on that, they'll create this profile. And using big data analysis, using Facebook's magic, they go and find the 1% of Americans who most closely resemble that audience. And now all of a sudden, instead of running ads to a group of 1,000 people or this mystery demographics that we've come up with ourselves, we can run ads to around 2.3 million people in the US who share a lot with our existing customer base, or people who are already interested in our product. So all of a sudden you're going from running this ad campaign to a small pool or a diluted pool of people who may or may not be interested in your product to this massive 2.3 million people who probably are going to be interested in what you're selling.
So, quick question. So is that more for somebody who wants to cater nationally, or can you do it in a smaller,
Great question.
like local?
Yeah, so the way I would do it, if you want to do local, I would do 2 things. Are you thinking Reno, maybe?
Yeah.
Reno, okay. So how many people, what's the population of Reno? What do we got? 400,000? So 1% of 400,000 is, all right, 4,000. Yeah. So we got 4,000 people. So yeah, you would be able to do a lookalike audience of Reno and get about 4,000 people. Fairly small audience, but you can actually tell Facebook you want to bump it up to say a 5% lookalike audience and then get 5 times the amount of people. The reason why I'm saying 4,000 is fairly small is because when you're running Facebook ads, it's a bidding system. You're bidding on people's attention, really. There's a lot of other people who are probably bidding on a pool of 4,000 people, and so the price for views, Facebook charges on impressions, the price for views for 4,000 people might be higher than if you're bidding on a pool of, say, 25,000 people, where there's more chance that people aren't you're not competing against so many people. They have a bigger chance. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Awesome. So you could do local retargeting as well. 2.3 is if you're doing the US. You'd get bigger if you're going globally. But that's the power of running lookalike ads on Facebook or using the pixel to come up with these ads. Now, the benefits of lookalike ads is it's similar to retargeting. You have a much bigger audience you're running ads to, but the drawback is also, you share the same drawback. You need a bit of an audience to start with to run lookalike ads. And that's the biggest challenge that we face other than getting the pixel installed. The biggest challenge is getting that base audience to create a lookalike ad set from. Now, just so far, most of us, when we think of Facebook ads, we still think of these clicks and likes, but just by using the Facebook pixel, now we have access to all these tools. The last thing I want to talk about before we talk about adding the pixel.
Is there a way to kind of catch on if you had a news event, breaking news event, that you could find the people that checked out that news event? Does Facebook do that?
If you own the news source, say you're the New York Times, yeah, you can run people who went to your website and read the article all day, but I couldn't run ads to people who saw the New York Times article. Okay. Yeah, it's just privacy. Yeah.
Say, look, if somebody's doing like a crowdfunding, like a Kickstarter or something like that. Are you allowed within like a Kickstarter to add Facebook Pixel, or is it only for your own website?
It's a really good question. In the past, 3 years ago, I had a partnership, or 2 years ago, I had a partnership with Indiegogo, and we couldn't do that. But we could have our own site to basically have the Indiegogo link, and we could run ads when we put on the link to Indiegogo, so we could get everyone who went to our site at least. That was kind of a workaround. Kickstarter, they might have an option for it now. I wouldn't be surprised if they let you add a pixel. But I don't know.
For those of us that don't sell through a website, is there a way to use this to target applications like cost per install and that kind of thing?
Yeah, what do you do?
I do games, but it all goes through the the App Store or the
Yeah, there is actually. That's a really powerful feature of Facebook, and I think they might have a different name for it, but you can definitely track cost per app install on Facebook. When you set, well, actually, we're going to go through how to set up the pixel, and there's an option right there that says you want to add it to an app. So it make it pretty easy for you to do it. I've never had the misfortune to add Facebook Pixel to an app, so I'm sure it's not too bad. If you develop apps, I'm sure you'll do better than I would. But did you have a question?
I do. What do you do Google then? We have to.
So that's a whole different beast. Google, I would say you want to measure your Facebook ads on Facebook, measure your Google ads on Google. And as much of a mess as that is, that's the way I would do it. Or you can use a third-party analytics solution, like Hotjar, which would let you bring all your data together and basically start looking at things on a campaign basis.
So Amplitude and those apps, are they more powerful than Facebook?
I haven't used Amplitude. Have you seen success with it?
I'm not using it. I'm still waiting for it to use.
Yeah, I guess so. For marketing, and especially when you're marketing anything new, the best platform is the best platform. You don't know going into it. You kind of have to test. You kind of have to put a little bit of money into Facebook. I would say put a little into Amplitude. I don't even know what Amplitude is. Put a little into Google, maybe some banner ads, and just see what people are doing. You know, how many visitors is it driving to your website? Is it giving you sales? And then you can go back to that first question we looked at, where you have spent $500 in ads and your glasses are $50 a pop. Okay, what channel where you spend $500 in ads? What channel is giving you the most sales? If you just look at things in that kind of framework, it can help you choose where you should be spending your money. Especially with so many different products out there and types of businesses. Like a B2B company might do much better on LinkedIn or Google than Facebook. And if that's the case, they can just test it pretty easily nowadays. Put a little bit of money in each platform and make a decision on their own. The last step before we wrap up, I wanted to actually move to how to install the Pixel after this. The last step of the 5 of this little tranche here is you can actually optimize your ads for conversion events. So we've talked about that customer journey. If we're trying to get leads, and we have a lookalike audience of our leads, we can have our lookalike audience that's we can run ads for a lookalike audience and tell Facebook that we also want to optimize for the people who are most likely to do that event. It's kind of like taking Facebook actually will find the people who's most likely to leave their email or submit a form. They'll actually optimize for that and begin improving the ads as you spend more money on its own. So that's the gist of it. Do we have any other questions before we jump into how to install the Pixel?
So
There's no silly questions. Sorry.
So for Facebook, yeah, let's have 1,000 unique visits per month. That down. Do you think that in the future that Facebook will regulate that?
No, you
Like,
can't.
so
I'm sorry. I said if I said
1,000.
monthly, you can start with. I think they go back as far as 6 months. You can look at 6 months worth of data. I just said 1,000 per month because that's where you really. But I mean, 6 months. If you have 1,000 in 6 months, you can get started. If you have even if you find the right partners, if you make the right partnerships, you can actually use you can get access to partner pixels and things like that, and start leveraging that. It's very powerful. Yeah.
If you recommend Facebook for business to business, or is that more business to customer?
Yeah. So the question was, do you usually use Facebook more for business to business or business to consumer? I would say you probably would do better business to consumer. And that's where we've seen our success. But I've also, if you're doing, say for example, we sell a lot to real estate agents. I work for a software company that sells to real estate agents, and real estate agents what we've learned is they tend to buy more like consumers than like big enterprise companies where there's five different stakeholders involved and there's all this decision making. If you're trying to get an enterprise sale for $100,000 where there's 5 decision makers, you probably have a hard time closing the sale just on Facebook, but you might be able to get a lead or two on it. If you're selling to real estate agents who have buying patterns like consumers, we can run Facebook ads all day, and we're happy to do that. So you can do both, but you need to be really mindful of what's your goal. If you're selling to B2B, your goal is probably just a lead or something like that rather than a sale. It's just things get too complex. Do you have any other quick questions about what the Facebook can help you do?
I have a follow-up. Does it have also industry, per industry? And if you want to target a specific industry?
You can, but they are getting a little more. So we've all heard of like the data scandals and everything on Facebook. It's hard not to have. Facebook has reacted in a very strong way to those data scandals, and it's getting tougher and tougher to target job titles, to target industries. You can still do it. It's just you might start to notice things like income targeting is becoming tougher, and they have all kinds of rules around it, around what type of product are you selling, and versus what kinds of rules they apply. So, but yes, you can. That wouldn't actually, you wouldn't really be using the pixel to do that. You'd be using their demographics for targeting audiences. Is everyone's head spinning yet? Am I doing a good job of confusing you? Or is anyone still hanging in there? All right, awesome. We're gonna move on then. So what I did talk about here earlier is I said we were gonna go back to how to set up the pixel. Who here has a pixel set up on their site? Does anyone have a pixel set up? Yeah. Cool. Okay, and then who here has a website that they're trying to drive traffic to right now? Yes. Okay, we got probably like 7 or 8 people on here, so maybe 9. We're trying to drive traffic. So, can you real quickly tell me, like, do you manage your own website? Do you have someone else manage it? Both. You got a mix, probably. Okay. So there's 2 ways to do it. The reason why I asked is because to activate the Facebook pixel, we're just going to go here to business.facebook.com. And you might want to write that down because it's actually surprisingly hard to find business.facebook.com if you just Google like run ads on Facebook.
What was that again? Business.facebook.com?
Business.facebook.com. Now, I might have to hide the screen for a bit because there's customer data and stuff on here, but we'll be right back up. Okay, so just have to double check that. But basically what we're going to do is you're going to go to business.facebook.com, and does everyone here have a business Facebook page already? Everyone who's planning on adding the pixel? Okay, so you just click on that business Facebook page. I'm going to click on our own because, like any advertiser or any shoemaker, we don't have our own shoes. We don't run ads on our business page yet. We haven't needed to, thankfully. But so this is pretty much like having a fresh slate to start from because there's no ads running through this page. But basically, you're going to go to this page here, this Facebook for Business, business.facebook.com, and in the Business Manager, if you haven't set up your ad account on Facebook yet, you want to have a Facebook Business ad account. You go here to Business Settings. There's some instructions on how to add an ad account for business. But once that's set up, you go to this Business Manager menu on the upper left, and then you'll see Events Manager under Measure and Report, and click Pixels right there. And let's just wait for this to load up. So once we're at this data sources, you can actually just add, up here it says add data source, you're going to say add Facebook pixel. And there we go, right there, I can name it, True Venture Marketing Pixel. I can say test or throw me away. I don't want to keep this, it's for an example only. And then you enter the website that it's going to point to, the truevm.com, and just hit create here. So now we have True Venture Marketing Pixel, test, throw me away. And they're actually getting even easier. So I can set this up. If I have a WordPress site that knows that, I can set up a WordPress, follow the instructions, probably 3 or 4 steps, and then you just need to make sure you add the events. Or does anyone here have a site that's not on WordPress? Do you have any other non-WordPress sites too? Okay, so, perfect. We have 5 people in here. So the manual way it worked for WordPress will work for anything else. Anyway, so set up manually, and now we have this install pixel option. So what it tells you to do is look for the header code of your website. For most of us, this means absolutely zilch. But if you know what the head is, it's literally on every single page of a website. It's made up of scripts, made up of text, versus the code behind the website. And there's a section at the top that says head, and it's all behind the scenes. It doesn't get shown to the person who's looking at the website. So you just find that piece of code on the site, find the head, and then copy this information. Feel bad for this camera here that's not getting me. You copy the base code. That's what this is here, base code. You copy that and put it in the head. And once you copy that and put it in the head, you just hit continue here. Or if we have a web developer, we could literally just email there's instructions here. If you have a web team, you can send it to them so you don't have to build it. You don't have to edit this code at all. You don't have to do anything to it. Just copy it and paste it in there, and you're done. You hit continue. And once you hit continue, it gives you the option to add all these events. So a few events I would want to add is this add payment info, this purchase, this subscribe. These are all pretty common events. A lot of us would be trying to optimize for these same things. So for the event section, you just find what you want to add. So let's say purchase. And if you want, say you know that the thank you page for your online course has a $57 value. Not a coincidence at all. I know someone here has a course that value. Yeah, I don't know where you're at. But you would say the value here, 577, and then USD, and it's all done there for you. And you just have to add that. Oh, strange. This must have. So weird. It's Facebook. They're doing some fishy stuff. And I drag this. I guess somehow it just switched my settings randomly. Surprisingly tricky to navigate backwards. So yeah, you just copy that, add it next to the first main event code. You add that in there, and then you're done. You're tracking events. Your Facebook set up. And you have the capability to start doing all these, you can retarget people, you can create lookalike audiences, you can optimize for conversions. You can do all that just once you have this thing set up.
So can we back up for a moment?
Absolutely.
So we decided we were going to track events which were purchased.
Uh-huh.
And then what did you do? Because then you said copy something and put it somewhere. So
Yeah. So sorry about that. So you're gonna just hit this copy, and it goes in the head of. So let's see, like most websites, or like for example, the StartUpNV website. If I were to buy something on there, or say sign up for an event on StartUpNV, you'd probably send me to a thank you page. And if not, it wouldn't be too hard to send you to a thank you, right? So I hit checkout, I get sent, it says thank you. You would take that line of code that you just copied and you put it on that page in the section that's called the head. Yeah. And so that means everyone who went to that page checked out. Yeah.
When you've done this, how do you know that it's working properly? Because one of the things I find, anytime I've ever dealt with kind of like the Facebook ad, and their whole setup is it's a little bit cumbersome sometimes.
It is a little,
and it's hard to know, whether, so I'm just wondering, how do you know when you put this into code for those who aren't, who savvy, how do you know it's working?
Yeah, so do you use Google Chrome at all?
Yeah.
So there's a really nifty plugin called the Facebook Pixel Helper. And the Facebook Pixel Helper is going to be in the upper right of your web page. I actually have it up here. It's this guy. And let's say if I go to, what's a site that would have, let's say like, I just type in skis. I don't even know what I'm writing here. It's terrible. What did I type in? Did I type in skis?
I think you had an extra I in there, but I have no idea how it got there.
What? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Totally apologize. That's not intentional. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so basically what would happen is if you went to a site that had it would actually show up right here. That thing would turn blue, and you'd be able to, basically be able to see if the pixel is tracking, and you can do that on any website at all. If you want to see the, whether they're tracking your activity, you can see what events they're tracking, all of that Facebook Pixel Helper.
Does Facebook provide some sort of like boilerplate privacy policy? Because
Yes.
now you have to disclose everything you track.
Mm-hmm. So as for, you have to agree to all their terms, and then if you're running certain types of ads, you have to reference the privacy policy in your ad, or you have to submit your privacy policy to Facebook. That's handled on the ad side of things, though. I don't have too much experience with adding Facebook's with like a boilerplate that you have to add to your own site.
Yeah, because I mean, when you're tracking other stuff, you're going to have to.
It would probably fall under the same rules of if you have a privacy policy for cookies and tracking on your site, it would be under that. But I haven't used any of Facebook's. And then if you're, it's also GDPR compliance now that you're ready for, which involves consent forms and whatnot. Does anyone have any other questions about maybe how to install the pixel, where to install it? Yeah.
Okay, so the first time you pick purchase.
Uh-huh.
So do you have to do that for each different event that you want to track?
So, like, are you saying what event do you have an event in mind?
Let's say they clicked through from one page to another.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that page, we have Facebook Pixel, and we're just going to be tracking whether they click through to another page or.
Yeah. So generally, we have a goal for each campaign, and if you say want to differentiate between your $50 pair of glasses, or your pair of glasses where you make $50, and your pair of glasses where you make $100. What you could do, and this is getting a little more tricky, so it'd probably be best to sit down and work through this, but you'd want to set up what we call UTM parameters, so that, or just set up a different, you're basically setting up a different URL. So up here, in the URL, you add a question mark. I'm not even going to type anything in up there. I'm like afraid to now. Never typing again in public. You add a question mark equals, and then pair of glasses 1 with a $50 or something like that. And then when you run your event on Facebook, you tell it to find everything with that exact URL and give the conversion value of $50. And actually, another way you can do this that's not so overwhelming. Let me see if I can match my screen. I think I can here built this display. Okay, perfect. All right. Another way you could do this. So you'd say custom conversions here. And create custom conversion. Now let's say on my site, doing it again, equals feed, and then I could hit just this URL. So if what happens when I type in the question mark equals is the URL doesn't change. I'm not going to a different page. I'm just going to the home page. It actually redirects me to the home page. That's my site setup. But so I could actually target that page with the question mark and leave, and then assign a value to it here, just in this custom conversion section. So what you want to do is on the page before checkout, so on your shopping cart page, for each product, people like Shopify make it really easy to send to a custom thank you page or have a URL with custom parameters. And so you just make sure that each product sends to its own, it can all be one thank you page, but they all have custom parameters in the URL. And you have to make the custom events here with the value associated. And then all of a sudden you can differentiate between the value of products and get really interesting insights on things like what we call return on ad spend. You know, what return are you getting for each dollar you put in? Yeah, sorry, is that driving everyone crazy? We're getting pretty deep. We're in the weeds now. Yeah. Do you have any other questions about? Let's go back like high level. Maybe what you can do with it.
One question. What would be your most?
Yeah. So I actually had a snapshot of it that campaign that had generated 30,000 leads, 7,000 registrations, actually higher now. That was a campaign we started in the beginning of 2018, and all those numbers happened within 1 year. High ramp up, high demand for a San Francisco client, and they have a high lifetime value as well. So we helped them to 5x their company size in a year through a Facebook campaign, basically.
Really?
Yeah, it was a big one. We had a lot of pressure from them. We worked our asses off. Sorry, I can't say that on here. We worked hard though to get those results. It wasn't easy.
What was the ratio between how much money to spend?
They had about a 2.5 to 3.5 times return, depending on good days and bad days. So, yeah.
Well, it paid for itself pretty well.
Paid for itself pretty well. Yep. Great company.
Were they constantly throwing money at it? Like, did they spread out their spend so they didn't equal the whole?
Yeah. So for them, when you're doing a big budget campaign, things are a lot different. It's not the same as running ads for. Yeah, it's just you start to actually see the impact of how big your audience is and how much competition you have. And so on we had a fairly constant budget. We still, when we see that our cost per registration is getting low, or cost per purchase is getting low, we will increase our spend on that. We have rules set to increase the budget. If cost per registration is higher than average, then we lower the budget. So there's variance there. We're trying to maximize our wins and minimize our losses on bad days.
Could you show us where you access that control panel? It shows like the reporting.
Yeah, I have to do that. I'd have to probably show you client information that I didn't get any consent for. I'm sure if I had it, it would be a different story, but I don't want to be giving away all their.
In general, that was in the business manager.
Yeah, actually, to get there, to access it, I'll show you how to access it. You just go Events Manager, and then that's an Ads Manager right here. So you're going to click that, and then I could even paste Facebook Ads Manager. It's going to give you, yeah, here's an image of it. Okay, so you've got Facebook Ads Manager. You have the account. That's one of the tricky things is people get lost because they're not the right account. And you also have your profile. You're in. You can sign in as the business for yourself. Here you have all your columns. So campaign, delivery, you can customize all of this. So results, you can trade that out for leads. Reach, how many people did you get in front of? Cost. So you have that right here. And there's literally hundreds of columns you can add. You can have each custom event that we were talking about, or each product. If you have custom events for product, you can add cost per page view in here on a page-specific basis. And it's always going to tell you this. It's going to give you 3 options. You want to see the number, the cost, and I think it's actually, sorry, 2 options. You're going to be able to see, like, say you're running ads for leads, you can either see the number of leads or the cost of the lead. If you want to know how many watches you sold or which glasses, you can see how many glasses you sold or cost per glasses. You can even see the return on ad spend for your glasses campaigns. Yeah.
For you personally, in your experience, is there any minimum amount of ad spending that you should never level up? Like, is it pointless to do a $25 ad?
No, not at all. So for learning, especially, like, I always say start a small budget. I never recommend anyone go try to kill through a $10,000 budget on Facebook. It's just, if you haven't spent small, if you haven't tested on a small scale, you're not ready to scale up to the big scale.
What's small scale?
Yeah, $25, $100. It really depends where you're at. They do have a daily minimum. I think it's somewhere around $3. I haven't checked in a while. They don't have a daily minimum. Okay, there you go. Okay. Yeah. No, that's actually, I have heard of people doing it. Yeah. And how did it work?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
We have to do 3 hours.
I know, like I know a lot of people are now starting to use like videos for ads.
Yeah.
But I found that Facebook has some like kind of strange unwritten rules about like text in your video, and if there's too much text, it actually will not let you run the video, and it's hard to understand why because I've had times where I've had videos that have absolutely no text and they get
Flagged, and
and then other ones where it's like the Gettysburg Address and it goes through. So how does it work?
Yeah, so it used to be that you had a 20% rule on Facebook, and if you divided the ad space, the square where your ad is, the creative image, you divided that into squares, and over 20% of those squares were occupied by text. It's the weirdest way to measure it. Then you'd be flagged. And then they got rid of the 20% rule, and they found some better way to do it, which it does it'll mistakenly basically classify symbols, weird lines, a lot of other things as text, even though they're not text. I've had the same problem. If you do have a video with text in it, especially moving text, you're probably gonna have a problem. You need to change the thumbnail to something that doesn't have text. And then request approval. Usually if your ad isn't approved or it says text and image, you can request an appeal and just say, if there's no text in it, just say this ad does not have text in it. Submit it, and within an hour or two, sometimes sooner, they'll go and reapprove it and a real person see it. If it does have text, just be mindful of that, especially with still images more than videos. Videos, if the text is animated, you're not usually going to get flagged if you have a thumbnail that's correct. I think that's all they can look at right now is the thumbnail. Yeah. Any other question about Facebook in general?
So they changed the algorithm a little bit for that.
All the time.
Well, no, so even in your news feed,
Yeah.
you don't see very much anymore of feed.
Mm-hmm.
That most recent change
seeing more videos, more.
Sure, but when you go for your targeting, how do you get that? Okay. In other words, how do you get your content in front of significantly fewer eyeballs based upon the level?
We have noticed a slight upward trend, but not too significant, cost per impressions. But that, I don't know if we could say that's universal. I actually wouldn't say that. When we run ads, we generally run ads on Facebook's feed, on Instagram's feed. Sometimes we'll even go to partner, they have the in-app articles. If you want to read an article on Facebook, sometimes there's ads in there. And so we haven't had any problem with getting ads in front of eyeballs. We have definitely seen an increase in the benefits of using video lately, which maybe that's just because video rocks. People like video. That could be it. So yeah, video's big. We haven't noticed a big decrease in impressions though. Yeah, Maggie?
It's a weird question. It involves the.
Oh, okay.
Do you have to use those because I know when I'm seeing it in my live feed, it already has me having liked it, but it's a different image.
Okay, wait, so.
Yes, so I liked you guys once, but you put a new picture up and I will like it again, right? I will help your business. But it already has the heart.
Huh. I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, no, I haven't noticed that. Anyone else? Maybe we can crowdsource the answer. Has everyone else experienced that? Yeah, that's. Has anyone else noticed that? Weird things with Instagram?
Different question.
All right.
So is Facebook and Instagram the only two down?
No, not at all. They just are on the same platform. You run Instagram and that, and through Facebook. That's Facebook and Instagram. What industry are you in? You mentioned earlier.
Home building.
Home building? Yeah, so you'll have Facebook, Instagram, Google, LinkedIn will be a big one. There's a lot of like home specific, like Zillow. And Zillow has an ad partner, I think. If you look up running ads on Zillow, you'll be able to find out how to do it. It might be through Google's ad network, but it might be someone else. And like, try to find out where your audience would be. Where would they be looking for homes? And where can you get in front of them while they have intent?
House, H-O-U-Z-Z.
How, that's it, house.
What is it?
H-O-U-Z-Z.
Yeah, that's a big one. I've heard a lot about it.
More contractors, bathroom contractors, all kinds of different specialties.
I was gonna say home. Like say home here.
H-O-U-Z-Z.
Yeah, house, H-O-U-Z-Z. That'd probably be a great one. But yeah. Any other things I can assist with today? All right. Well, thank you. Oh, sorry.
No.
Sandy has one more. Last question. What's that? If your ad account's banned, yes, there is.
Called me last week. I'm like, good luck.
Actually, so that was a problem last week. A lot of ad accounts got banned last week. We had an ad account get banned last week, and it was the biggest headache I've had in years. And 2 hours later, after I spent my whole afternoon messaging them without hearing a response, they basically told us it was a mistake and re-enabled it. But I don't know if they were actually banned. Just make sure they keep hammering on the support line. There is a support line on it's facebook.com/resources, where you can usually get on a chat with a Facebook ad representative who's technically running ads, and make sure they submit a few requests if they don't hear back. And that they're really nice, and that they fix whatever got them kicked off, and they don't do that anymore. Yeah. Awesome, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Matt. presentation. I know we could probably go on forever.
We could go on.
Between Facebook and all the other social media sites. So thanks everybody for coming out for our Lunch and Learn today. We've got another one next week or next month from a patent attorney, and we will get more specific on the exact topic as we get closer. We don't have the topic just yet.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
It's all about your employees. He's been C-level and head of HR for different companies. And because not only are people your biggest asset, but they're also your biggest liability. So he's going to give you some strategies for dealing with employees.
So here we go. Dealing with employees, nothing about patents. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks very much to Matt.
Thanks so much.